Okay. All right. Good morning. How are y'all guys doing this morning? I'm really excited because he put The Economist on first. I'm never first, and you guys are actually awake and caffeinated, so thank you, Dr. Rafi. I really appreciate that. Because we like our numbers, right? So, you can't hear me? I guess I'll stand here. How about now? All right, now I can't move. That's probably a good thing. Anyways, we like our numbers, so I'm really excited to be here. This is my first time getting to attend this conference here at Virginia State. I'm really excited to have an opportunity to visit with you, and I think I have 10 minutes, so I'll just jump right into it. If you have any questions you want to visit later, I'll be here through lunch, so I look forward to getting to meet all of you all. He wanted me to sort of show just some real basic market trends, so I got some supply slides and a little bit of information on prices for blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries is what I tried to focus on, so we'll see how many of these I can get through. How many blueberry growers do I have in the room? As I get to know you. Okay, very good. Anyone thinking about growing blueberries? Okay, a little bit of everything. So just start off with the first obvious slide. What's our U.S. blueberry acreage look like over the past 15 years? So I put this slide up there. I'll ask you guys what I asked my freshman high schooler yesterday. What does it look like going on with blueberry acreage? Doubled, right? So this has been an interesting trend. I've been working with blueberries since 2008, and it's been really interesting to hear about, oh, we've had good prices, people are planting, in 4 years we're going to have this massive, massive production. So this is the thing we wanted to start off with. Yes, we have seen a doubling of acreage in the past 15 years. So what I did here was this exact same red line here. This is still the acreage that's harvested across the U.S. And what I did was I layered on the grower prices received. The top line, the blue numbers, which thankfully you can see, that's your fresh grower price. And the green triangles on the bottom there, sort of scattered around, are your processed grower prices. So what I wanted you to do is see those prices laid over top of the acres that have been harvested over this time period. So you can see in 2000 we had fresh prices $1.29. 2003 they go to about $1.49. 04 $1.55. Then they jump up to $2 there by 06. And what is our acres harvested doing? It's following right along with those fresh prices, right? And we see the numbers come up. We see our acres kind of drop a little bit there in 2007. And then there's pretty much a steady rise all the way up to 2014. So what's interesting to me as an economist is that fresh prices continued to go up there through 07, 08. And they came down a little bit, but even in 2011, they were still $2.19. So that for me is a sort of interesting phenomenon. Prices are really doing a pretty good job of maintaining, along with this doubling of acreage. So again, this is your fresh grower price. This isn't retail price. Processed, we see a little bit of a different story. Processed prices kind of tracked upwards, and then they dropped down there 09. So that's where we saw a little bit of that impact of those increased acreages. Our processed prices started to come down a little bit, or trending a little bit downwards. So anybody here growing for the processed market on purpose? That's your secondary market, right? Especially here in Virginia. Obviously, Virginia is not a top 10 blueberry production state. We're still growing in the industry here in our own state. But I wanted you to kind of get an idea of what the prices were doing as related to that harvested acreage. Where is it going? This is interesting, more in comparison to the other berries. I know blueberries pretty well. Blackberries and raspberries were kind of new to me, but keep this in mind. We're seeing fresh. This is utilized in pounds. So in 2000, we had about, looking at fresh, we had about 70-some thousand, or excuse me, it's in thousand pounds, 700,000, yeah, 700,000 pounds. And then, of course, we've gone all the way up to almost 300,000 or 300 million pounds going to the fresh market. Processed, you're starting to see that distinction there, right? What did we see in the slide before that in prices? We saw a bigger distinction there from 07 on to 14. Processed prices were going down, fresh prices were going up. So you're seeing that process that's starting to be a bigger separation between the volume going into those two markets. So you can kind of see that relationship. This one's got a little bit of everything on it. They're not necessarily to compare, but I wanted to demonstrate the yield per acre that we're getting across the U.S. We had average yields around 4,500 pounds an acre. Now we're up to about 6,500 pounds an acre. Those of you that are in the field have seen much more extreme. I'm sure Dr. Rafi's seen. I've seen growers be able to get 16,000 pounds an acre with certain varietals and certain management techniques. So again, this is an average. We see on average as an industry across the country, we've done a really good job improving our yields. So That's the brown line there. The blue line on here is the value overall of utilized production. This is whether it's gone fresh or processed. And not surprisingly, with the increased acreage, we're seeing a value of utilized production going from 100 million upwards of 750 million. So again, not surprising when we've seen that acreage trend upwards. Imports matter, right? That's a competitor for us here in the U.S. So I wanted to share with you both the value and the production levels of blueberry imports. Not surprisingly, trend up together. Same trend we've seen here in the States. So we have the brown line there is blueberry imports in thousands of pounds. So we started with about 500,000 pounds. Now we're at over 200 million, 220 million pounds are imported, blueberries imported. Now, when are these guys coming in? I didn't do any seasonality things, but when are these blueberries being imported largely, time of year wise?
Fall.
That's right. They're coming in the early season. And I didn't get into too much with pricing because I didn't have tons of time, but you guys are very familiar with the difference in price between March 1st, April 1st, May 1st, June 1st. Big variation in price per pound that you're going to receive. I know you've got some high tunnel studies in the blackberries that Dr. Rafi is going to present. So getting in that early season window can mean a big variation in the prices you're getting. So I can visit with y'all more about that later. Blackberries, how many of y'all grown blackberries? Oh, there we go. Anybody thinking about it? Some folks thinking about it. All right, this is a new one for me. I haven't done been in the field with these ones too much. Same things I wanted to sort of look at. Acreage harvested in blackberries, and we've only got data back to 07 on this. So we've only got about 8 years of data that I'm able to share with you here. So 07, we had about, and this is just raw numbers, so about 6,600 acres. It dropped off in 12 to just below 6,000, so we're at just about 6,100 acres. I'm not sure if there was a disease pressure there or why that was, but again, this largely is coming from our top 3 producing blackberry states, California, Oregon, and Washington, of course. So that's primarily the data that's been reported for these years. The same thing we did with blueberries. I laid the fresh price and the processed price right on top of that. See the same trend, processed price is lower. None of us are growing for the processed market. On purpose, we want to try to hit that fresh market window if we can. And you can see a pretty steady trend here, a little bit of variation with those acres harvested. When you saw the drop in acres harvested in 2012, anyone surprised that the price was a lot higher? Grower price was higher in 2012? Not surprising, right? When you have less of it out there, you have less of it on the market, it's going to have a higher price. So proof that economics is a really good discipline. We're important. Okay, utilization, fresh versus processed, again, the same thing. This is a big difference from blueberries, right? They tracked pretty closely. We saw about the same amount of volume going into fresh and processed. In blackberries, we see a big difference between what's going fresh and processed. And processed is by far the leading utilization of these blackberries. Any guesses why that might be? I hear some whispers. Pardon? There it is. Might not try that one. All those S words together, short shelf life. Exactly. And so for all of us here in Virginia, this is where I see market opportunity, right? You're close to markets, you're close to population centers, and you can get it there faster than California, Oregon, and Washington, right? You just got it. So that, to me, that gives a little bit of an interesting window of opportunity there. And you can see the difference just between blueberries and blackberries and where it's going generally across the states. Looking at yields here, pounds per acre is going to be our brown line. Started at 9,000 pounds per acre, and it's right about 7,500 pounds. A lot of variation here. And where blueberries, we saw a nice steady trend upwards. Here we're seeing some bumps and some divots here. I'm not exactly sure. Again, I'm not familiar with the industry. Maybe Dr. Rafi has some insight on this, but folks are obviously still learning how to maximize their yields, or still working maybe with some disease or pest pressure that's going on there. So value of utilized production, however, trended up steadily, pretty steadily. This is what happens when you get up at 2 in the morning. I'm about one Diet Coke short. All right, raspberries. How many folks are doing raspberries? All right, this is my favorite fruit. Anybody thinking about raspberries? Okay, so this one was really fun to study. So I pull the numbers down for this one, and I start with this graph. And I'm thinking, oh, this is great. I'm making my slides, and it's going along great. And then I realized that the total acres harvested, which is the blue line, is less than the acres harvested of red raspberries alone. So, of course, obviously I messed up my numbers, right? So I went back and checked, and this is where the fine print comes into play. So from '07 to 13, total acres harvested, the blue line, was just California. Okay, that's how they track the data. From 2007 to 13, for black raspberries, that's just Oregon. And then the red line, or sort of brown line, that's red raspberries, the high number. That's going to be just Oregon and Washington. So in 14, all that changed, and now the blue line is where it should be, which is the summation of the red and green lines, California, Oregon, and Washington. So this is just the acres harvested in those 3 states. So does that make sense? Because it threw me off. I'm like, how can I not total more than the sum of the whole and all that stuff? So instant fail. I wanted to show here total raspberry production by in thousands of pounds, and then black, and then red. So we have also here our raspberry production in pounds is the blue line. It was about 120 million pounds. It's gone up to 180 million pounds. Again, that's across both colors. The largest, obviously, red is going to be most of that. It looks like 60 million pounds, and it's pretty much accounting for most of that production. So I don't think I've ever had a black raspberry except for out in the field, just a wild one. So are y'all mostly growing red raspberries? Reds? Okay, so that's what and then you'll see the blacks on there. They've been pretty steady on. Again, that is now all 3 states, but I think pretty much that must be concentrated in Oregon. So what I wanted to do was, again, a little bit of data limitations. Look at the same harvest acreage. Here we're looking just at the red raspberry acreage, which is accounting for most of U.S. production. And I figured that would be where you were interested in looking. So blue line, again, showing our acres harvested. You see that jump in 14 when we bring California into that number. Same thing, we got fresh grower price is the brown number, and then processed grower price is green. So just like we saw in blackberries and blueberries, getting a lower price for that process than you are for the fresh. And you're seeing pretty steady numbers there. I mean, it's definitely, on the uptick. It's an upward trend in both cases, but you're seeing it pretty steady. There was sort of a drop there in 2010 on fresh prices. But again, this is just red raspberries, but that is the majority of the numbers. It makes up the majority of the total. We couldn't get the total because California was the only state measured, and they wouldn't release fresh and processed grower prices for just California. I'm guessing there's only 1 or 2 big growers out there, so they couldn't reveal the data for, it'd give away their business information. So again, looking at red raspberry, fresh versus processed, you see that same distinction here in amount of pounds going to fresh versus processed. Again, same problem we had with blackberries, right? These guys just don't ship well. They don't do well on the shelf. They just don't hold very well. Again, gives you some motivation, and this is all West Coast production, so there's no East Coast production represented in these numbers at all. Looking at yield per acre, again, the brown line is the yield, and this is red raspberries, pounds per acre. As expected, they're doing a little better with their yields. Went from 5,500 pounds an acre to about 6,500. Some, a little, not the steady trend I saw in blueberries. A little bit of this up and down thing as they're figuring things out. Value of utilized production, holding pretty steady. And then in 14, we've got that weird number with finally getting all 3 states together. Just to compare that with red raspberries, this is total yield. So I brought in both colors here. Again, they're separated by state up until 13. So we see yield being about 2,250 pounds an acre, and that's dropping off to just over 10,000 when you bring all those states in. So they're bringing in California, Oregon, and Washington. We see that big drop off in yield. So again, with any data, you have to know the assumptions behind it. But I wanted to at least give you an idea what those yields look like. Lots of variation. Is this what you see in your trials? You'll probably see. I don't get them to do a preview for me. If you're seeing big yield variations in these berries, like I've seen in blueberries. And then the value of utilized production. Again, that drop off there in 2010 when they had a drop off in harvested acres. So again, I just wanted to kind of fly through that. There's lots more I could tell you, but I wanted to keep it in my 10 minutes so I don't hold you up. But are there any specific questions, or you want to hold those for later, Dr. Rafi? I will leave it to you.
Leave it behind. So
Okay. I will be here during the lunch. Yes, sir.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good.